got sort of cut off.
Okay, I was just thinking of.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Your voice is
I think
back.
the mic was just too far from my mouth.
Oh, okay. I was going to switch to you anyway because another aspect of this is not just the user interface design and the back end of it, but the actual real usability of it. I know people were mentioning earlier about people with disabilities or people who need simpler interfaces, and I have to say, although with the idea of streaming the world via a stream, at the moment you are. I haven't checked your operation recently, but I presume that you are delivering via a stream, like a full instance, personal instance of the Firestorm viewer to a given viewer, and you're not actually adjusting the interface code in any way, or am I wrong there?
That's correct. It's just a standard release of Firestorm and of the Linden official viewer, and we plan to add other viewers in the future. Our approach is totally different and came from some of the same realizations that we were just discussing here in the panel. Devices can be very limited. Their ability to render can be very limited, either through software or just not having the hardware capability. So with Frames technology that we're using, we're able to do all of that rendering in the cloud and then just stream a video basically to the device, so almost any device can handle it.
Well, but yes, the cloud is just not that. It's not a cloud. It's a bunch of servers. So you need server resources to do streaming. And
exactly.
I know that
G2
one of the things
XLR
that has been pressuring you is the cost versus scalability question. How do you solve it?
Absolutely, and it's because we're so early. OnLive was early, so early that that wasn't viable for them with proprietary hardware. Then we're now using a cloud system, and the only thing the cloud gives us is it's easier to manage. But we have servers that are doing the rendering, and those servers currently there's some limitation on the number of servers available and the number of vendors available who can provide them to us. But we see those limitations very much lessening, opening up over the next year.
Well, that's good to hear since devices are so limited.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I actually think that the streaming solution has a lot of potential. I really like it, and plus it gives us the freedom to do viewers the right way without worrying very much of which hardware platform they're going to run on people's homes. So if we can rely on the existence of a computer with a good graphics card, with good network connection that can do the rendering, that is a kind of a good stepping stone to design things. So I think it's great. It's really the only issue for there is what Melanie said is the cost scalability thing. But I'm hoping that that's going to be figured out and solved.
Sure. It's like any other new technology. It starts out expensive and error prone and then gets better. And what we're seeing is right now on the higher end, companies like Autodesk and Siemens are using this technology, and they have a higher price point, that they can afford because it's just because of the nature of the use case.
Right.
But for the viewers, we're right on the edge. We're able to provide something that is affordable for some uses, but isn't available for everybody yet. It's just we can't hit the price point for everyone yet. And that's where we think we do see the future giving us a lot more flexibility there.
If you get enough subscribers, you'll have your own server farm, maybe.
Yeah, this could be. And a lot more cloud providers providing the graphics instances.
Well, of course, one of the great things about your streaming technology as Krista just hinted at, is the fact that, of course, you can get it on things like, I guess, iPads and Androids, and or even if it's via a browser link or something. It is actually a very mobile way of accessing the web, and of a world, I should say. I'm a big fan of a program called Radagast as well, which I don't think has been updated for a while, but basically it gives me everything online at very high speed, except the actual visual interface of the world. In other words, I can IIM, I can teleport, I can do root through my inventory very quickly, for one thing. I can do things using that simplistic interface that I don't need the actual virtual environment for, although, of course, what I lose is the immersion of being in a space, visually. But also there's a program on the iPad called Pocket Metaverse. There's another one on Android called Lumia, I do believe, all of which are trying to find ways to bring a simpler version of the world to our devices. I mean, one of them, for example, I think it brings you the world via a sort of static JPEG that refreshes every 15 seconds or something like that. So a lot of different people working on different ways of bringing either the full world or a limited connectivity to the worlds online. How do we feel, basically, and this is really to all of you, so we'll start ad-libbing here, about the actual state of the interface? Now, I'm not talking about whether it should be legacy, modular, or streamed, or whatever here. I mean, imagine if you were, for example, and Lyndon's, I must admit, did try this for a short while. You have various modes, and some of those modes may have different modules. But the idea that there'd be a simple mode where people could just, have a fairly smooth experience, just pointing and clicking, sitting and listening, that kind of thing. And then a sort of, an advanced mode, which will, include inventory management and all sorts of other things. And then maybe a super mode that includes the tools that builders need for the stuff they do. They are very much sort of separate disciplines. I know people have entered virtual worlds as, just to go to a concert, and 6 months later they can't get out and they've become expert builders, so there's a transition there. But I think one of the things that all virtual worlds are trying to tackle is that simplicity of use. In other words, click a link, be there, get there, and have everything, laid out in the interface so that it's just easy for a novice who can then plug in or bring up extra menus as they need them. How do you feel we're doing on that front? Because I've got to admit, the streaming thing at the moment is just like Firestorm. It's got all the menus up front. Krista's Onlook, of course, is a step towards the modular system, where she provides a very, very simple interface as you enter her region, because the server sends the message to Singularity to change the interface. But and Myron, of course, you have actually mentioned accessibility previously. So what steps do you think we can do to tackle not so much modular implementations and things, but the actual design of the user interface in such a way that the everyman will think it a very natural idea to go to a space instead of a page?
Well, there's only one way to do this, actually, and there are several different approaches heading that way. Now, first thing, the fallacy of the advanced button. Don't go there. The advanced button is the first button that will be clicked by exactly the people who shouldn't.
Me.
This is one of the it's one of the truisms of user interface design. So the advanced button needs to be avoided pretty much at all costs. So that leaves us with how to design the perfect user interface. And the only thing that we've come up with so far across all the viewers is one size fits none. And this is what's about to change. The idea is that the user interface should be tailored to the experience, meaning when you change regions, your user interface should change accordingly. You would see a different interface in a region that has a game running than in a conference region. So the interface needs to be provided by the region in hopefully a format that viewers can eventually agree on, or otherwise content creators will have a hell of a lot of work, or they'd have to choose one over the other, something that I don't really look forward to seeing. But that is the main thing. The region provides the experience. And if you want to go further than that, if you want to be a content creator, then you can switch to a fuller interface or even a different viewer that you may not even know about when you first enter the world, but you get a link on the website like, want to go further, create your own content, download this and that may be whatever. That may eventually something that is capable of using the tools of things like Unity or Unreal and just upload the entire sim all at once. I mean, the collaborative building in world has its strength, but it's also got its limitations, and we may need to go away from that, at least in parts.
I think, but a different kind of, selected different viewers that do different functions is probably a good idea. I mean, I wouldn't dream of trying to film or attempt, I think is the word, to build using anything other than a desktop. But on the other hand, I'm quite happy to use an iPad or even Radagast to just do general communication things. So, I used two different viewers for two different functions, if you like. Other people's thoughts on this? Myron, simplicity of design.
Well, I agree that we do have to build a lot of the functions that support accessibility into the regions, but I also like the idea of having whatever viewer people are using be customizable to meet their particular needs. For example, it'd be wonderful to have voice to text supported by the regions so that if somebody's speaking, it automatically types it. The advantage to that is then somebody with hearing disabilities who can't use voice can still be part of the conversation, and then we could take advantage of the translators at the same time. But some people using the viewer might not want that to happen. Maybe it'd be too chatty, maybe they don't use text at all because they can't read it. So they should have the ability to turn that off.
So let me just say, intervene here. I think, there's the base of what Melanie said. I think we're on the same page that we need to break this apart. But on the part of users and people who are used to these kinds of environments of Second Life and OpenSimulator, I think it's important that people also transition from seeing themselves as content creators to seeing themselves as experience designers. It's a completely different mode of operation, okay? You're not just building a 3D building, okay? You can build a 3D building in Blender, as far as I'm concerned. You're designing an experience, an immersive experience. And in designing the experience involves everything. It's the 3D content, it's the menus that pop up, it's the way that the menus interact with the 3D content, it's whether you see this or not see that, whether you have certain permissions to do this or not. It's the whole thing, right? If you're designing an experience, and you have a lot more freedom suddenly, and you have to think about all of this. Right? If you're designing an experience for people with disabilities, then you really have to think very careful about what kinds of experience do you want to provide for those kinds of people. And so that needs to be easily programmable, which is something that we're not there yet. But I don't know how many of you have used Unity 3D. Unity 3D has that flavor. People design experiences. It's a little hard in many respects. There's a little learning curve to designing those environments. I think we have actually quite some interesting advantages here, especially the multi-user content creation possibility that we have in OpenSim. It actually puts certain things of the designing in an advantage, but there's a lot more to be done, and people kind of need to think of themselves as experience designers, not just content creators.
I must admit, when I work on my own regions, so I'm learning quite a lot since I started doing that. And, I'll often be logged in there just by myself, and, I just enjoy all the musical and sound effects I've put down, the birds, the lapping waves and things like that. And I can't conceive of the world without those add-ons. I mean, obviously somebody who have a hard of hearing won't enjoy those, but, it's just one facet things that it makes just so much difference. It becomes not a visual environment anymore. It becomes more and more immersive the more things like that you're able to add. I was about to welcome back to Bill, by the way. He's just re-resed. I think he may have crashed or something. So welcome back, Bill. Okay. Actually, if you're with us, or if you're back on voice, Bill, how do you feel about ease of use topics? And maybe I'm not back on voice. We'll move on. Okay. Well, one of the main things with all of you here is because you're really actively working in various projects and sometimes together doing these things. From your own personal perspective, and feel free to just add a few lines about what you're doing yourself. What personal direction, should I say, do you see the viewers going, biased by your own project, so to speak? Because I think that hearing all of you will give us a broad overview. Let's start again with Myron while we're waiting for Bill to connect again.
I'm sorry, repeat the question, Mel. I was actually reading the chat here.
Oh, yes, very tempting, isn't it? We will have some Q&A near at the end. I gather Tara Lynn is picking up some of the key questions and stuff, and I keep getting distracted too. No, I was tell us a bit more about your specific project and how you see the future of the viewer and viewer interface, our interfacing progressing. This is really about interfacing, not just a viewer per se. I mean, we're talking about human-computer interfacing with virtual environments. So, your thoughts on that, maybe from the point of view of your project.
Certainly, what's driving the project, and Steve will agree with this, is the fact that we want the 3D virtual worlds to be as accessible as any website is.
That's really the key, yeah.
Having the internet become the 3D world, so that you don't just go to a flat page at Amazon.com and look at pictures. You go to Amazon.com's virtual world, and you're picking up the items, you're looking at them, you're reading the labels. You might be talking to a clerk who could be a machine intelligence-driven avatar, but who cares as long as you get what you need. You could be shopping with your friends and enjoy the camaraderie and things that might go along with that. Or you could take your children shopping and have them tell you what they like and don't like and buy them what you want to anyway. But, that's the kind of experience we're looking for. We want this to be the general purpose, mainstream. This is what everybody does every day.
I'm sorry. We want it to be so accessible that it won't be a niche thing like it is now. We want it to be accessible so that everybody's got it on their head, like it's at that level where like Kleenex is. Everybody has that word, and when you ask for a Kleenex, you know what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, sorry, we seem to have lost Bill again. Unfortunately, he has to reboot, so we'll have to come back to him later. Right, I've lost my train of thought there. Too much going on at once. Okay, Krista, let's move to you again. Obviously, you are working on code and the Hypergrid, and you're working with mostly open source material. But over and beyond that, what sort of trends do you see in the work you're doing that maybe are influencing the way you're approaching things now?
So I do two main things with this platform. I use it as for specific meeting functions. I use it with my students. I use it sometimes with some ad hoc groups that I work with. And the other use that I have of this is for urban development with a company in Citra that does 4D modeling of cities redevelopment plans. They operate mostly in Sweden. And so for both of these environments, like you can see, they have completely different requirements with respect to the experience that we want to provide. Meeting rooms are one part of the spectrum, and they're not even all the same, right? The kinds of things that you do in meetings require specific different support depending on what kind of meeting you have.
Yeah.
And from there to urban simulation is an even bigger leap with respect to the experience. And some of what we want to provide there in urban planning, we want to provide the visualizations that don't even include the person as an avatar, because that freaks some people out for a reason. So we want just give a plain view of the city and the cars and stuff. And but at the same time, we also want to be able to continue to support the collaborative building that I think works very well in certain cases. We do a mixture of individual building in Blender and then collaborative scene construction, and so there's a variety of things that need to be supported, and that's my view of this. Is that the user interface needs to be redefined on a situation by situation basis, even user by user basis. And the other part that I really like is the streaming part. What Bill Clover is doing, I really like that idea that it's liberating, that we don't need to worry about what kinds of platforms people are using, and they just get a video stream and everything works. I think that's ideally what I would love to use these kinds of environments on.
Okay, great. So Melanie, actually we did have I'll leave it to questions later, but I know Cassis in the audience was particularly, I think I've been talking about OnLook instead of you. We'll come back to that in a minute though. Melanie, you obviously are heavily involved in code, and you've got your own grid, which is Avination, of course, but in running your grid and doing the coding and stuff you do, so on top of that, what are your feelings about the long-term development? Possibly, if you can put yourself in the state of mind of a user, what direction are these things going? The way we're going to be interfacing. Oh, are you still muted, Melanie? Or have you dropped out of the call?
Melanie.
Okay, I don't know. We got one person dropping out and another person dropping out quite literally while he reboots. Okay, well, so much for that. Okay, let me go back to you, Krista, because we did, maybe you could tell in your own words instead of mine, exactly what the OnLook viewer is all about. There were a couple of questions in the audience.
I think we have Melanie back, no? Melanie, are you back? No? She's not getting audio, apparently.
Right. I think just tell us a little bit about OnLook while we're getting everybody connected again.
Yeah. Sure. So OnLook is an experiment on trying to see how far we could push these existing viewers to do the different kinds of user interfaces. So that's sort of where I started last year. And right now it does just a couple of neat little tricks of redefining what kinds of buttons you see on the bottom and whether you have an avatar or not. So I have it configurable server side. It's a server that decides whether people get these modes or not. So I'll probably put it on my virtual lab, and people can Hypergrid there, and if they're using OnLook, they will see the user interface switch under them.
Is some of that code you're using available to other grid operators or people operating their own regions if they want to experiment with the idea that you're doing there?
This is, you can just use OnLook and anywhere. I haven't really explained how to configure the server side, but
yeah, that's what I meant.
If people ask me, I will explain.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, because it is a very useful system. Although actually, the time I visited you, I realised that one of the things you removed was the teleport out button.
Yes, but that's one particular menu so the thing is people can put their own menus. People can decide which buttons to show and which buttons to not show. So that's the idea.
And Andrew in the audience is actually saying, is it configurable via an add-on module to OpenSimulator?
Yes.
I guess that is yes, yeah, exactly.
It is. I haven't. It's undocumented, and I haven't had time to document it. But yes, it is configurable and it's relatively easy.
I'm not surprised. The amount of stuff you do, documenting it must be the biggest pain of all. Okay, so guys, just get in touch with Krista. It is, it's everything you do pretty much is open source, isn't it, Krista? So they can work with you.
Not everything I do is open source, but a lot of what I do is open source. So if I hear, two people asking me to put this documented, I will write a blog post. I promise.
Okay, wonderful. Right, are you back with us, Melanie? I saw Melanie typing furiously a minute ago, but I don't know whether I've still got her on voice. Okay, maybe we haven't. Oh, she needs to pick up Skype. Okay, we're doing very well here, aren't we? People are running away from me. Shall I give a lecture instead? Right. I have come ill prepared for that, I tell you.
Skype sometimes can be a challenge with so many people. In World Voice actually works better.
Yes, it does sometimes. It really depends on what you're doing and how many people are involved. In World Voice tends to fade in and out wherever the camera goes. So, it's I guess it's whether you're filming the environment or filming TV, sort of, if that's a distinction. Okay. Now, I've got a couple of interesting things to ask that I've actually was reminded of. Somebody said, "Oh, bring that up on your panel." Where our old friends in that oldie world, Second Life, are concerned, one of the big changes happening to Linden Labs Viewer, which is going to set it further apart from the OpenSim viewers, I suspect, is that there's a new Black Dragon viewer that I downloaded the other day, and there's a beta form of viewer from Linden Labs where the what we call media on a prim. In other words, the ability to bring web content and video and things into virtual worlds has been, the back end of that has been changed. And it means that, obviously Jessica's not here, but it does mean that Firestorm and Second Life viewers will be running, I think it's a Chromium embed framework or something like that. So they won't play Flash and a lot of the conventional stuff anymore. They'll be relying on HTML5. And I'm curious as to how that will affect the OpenSim viewers we've got, because obviously if the new releases come out and they've got the Second Life viewer component in it, it will be fundamentally different from the one we use at the moment. But I'm also quite interested in knowing how you all feel about developments in HTML5 itself. And that may sound like, what's that got to do with the virtual world viewer? But we are finding that a lot of tools that we've got used to using on the web, like Flash, for example, are proving, even Adobe have now said to everybody that Flash is dead. You can author HTML5 with it, but not, they don't want you to author Flash because there are too many holes in it. It's a security risk. Viruses can come. How are we going to cope with the various elements of the virtual world, including the ones that come onto our interface, with all these new developing standards on the web itself? Because, we have to think of a space, for example, the virtual office, as somewhere you can access the web. For other people, they would like to access the web, of course, and go into a virtual world from there. But whichever way round you do it, there is this ultimate connection between what's available on the web and the newer standards coming in on the web and our virtual world. So I'm very keen to hear your thoughts on that. And again, I'm going to start with you, Krista.
Okay. I mean, I think let's the other panelists chirp in, especially
okay.
Stephen.
Yes, Stephen is.
And Myron.
Yeah, and also Bill is back, of course. Okay, I'm going to throw to Bill. Bill, while we still got him. Are you there, Bill?
I don't think they have voice, Mal. I think they're having a problem connecting back to the Skype chat, the voice. So
Okay. Okay. Let me ask you, Steve. And you take it away. I'm just going to look away to the other screen and see if I can get these people back into voice.
Steve or Myron, do you want to take a cut? I think the question was about developments on the web, HTML5 and WebGL, I assume.
I'm sorry, I didn't have my microphone unmuted and I started talking, heaven forbid. Anyway, you guys all have really extremely valid points. And frankly, I would like to sit down with all of you and toss this around a whole lot, because mostly I've been tossing stuff around with Myron and one other person who is completely and totally crazy. But what I see in the future is we're going to have to look at things in a completely different way. We're going to have to look at it from like Melanie was bringing up the thing about copyright. I don't think that people, your average Joe, okay, is going to want to be moving things around in the world or adding things to the world or doing that. They're just going to want to experience it. That's how we're going to get people in there. We need to make it like really easy to get in, really easy to get around, really easy to do things, and make it totally and completely intuitive. That's the only way that this is going to become mainstream. Otherwise, it's going to stay a niche. And we need to de-niche it really bad, because like I say, I keep talking to people and nobody knows about this. People come into my office and I show them my virtual worlds and they're like, oh, wow, you know, and they don't know anything about Second Life. When I bring up that, it's even when I went to the Consumer Electronics Show last year, nobody knew about that. I was in the Eureka Park talking with everybody there, and very, very few of them had any idea what I was talking about. You'd think these people being tech people would be right there, but they aren't. So a lot of it's education.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. I mean, you know, Maria Koloff and I are always talking about VR technology and, you know, the boom in this. Although I rather suspect those cumbersome headsets are going to be, you know, to have a limited audience, especially the costly ones as opposed to cardboard. But the focus, you know, everybody talks about the virtual reality resurgence, but very little mention seems to be made of the idea of virtual worlds. People are obsessed with transforming cinema into 3D, or to have standalone things that operate in 3D with these cumbersome viewers. It's almost as though the idea of a space of communication and collaboration, like virtual worlds represent, is being ignored. Everybody's talking the tech, but not the use cases.
Well, yeah. You're exactly right, Mal. What it is, though, is people abhor change. So what they're going to do is they're going to do the things that change things the least. What we're talking about is a complete and total change. Okay, you could theoretically live your whole life in a virtual world. I mean, there's a lot of people on Second Life that are kind of doing that now, much to their detriment. Okay,
but I'm sorry, folks. I have suddenly realised this always happens to me. We're getting towards time. I'm quickly going to hand the microphone back to Tara Lynn just to see if there's any really key questions we can answer. But we literally only have about a couple of sets left.
Yes. You know, I had one question, and it was, what does the panel think of making available a slightly customizable viewer for businesses to put their specific logo in? What do you guys think?
So I think that's very easy. You just have to pay a viewer developer to do it for you. That's technically, it's absolutely trivial.
I think actually.
There are people who can do those kinds of little consulting jobs for you. It's you just put your logo images. There's a couple of different ones, different sizes that you can do. And that's about it. They'll build it for you and they package it for you.
Okay.
Yeah, you can even get somebody to do it, or I certainly know certain grids already have their own viewers. They can be. You can use their viewer, or you can use another viewer, but their viewer is often just a decorative modification. The code is all there for compiling, I guess.
All right. And Raymond, you got your answer there. So touch base with one of these guys, and maybe they can guide you to somebody who can help you out with that.
All right. Okay, well, I'm afraid I know we have a 5-minute turnover before the next panel, and I've just cut it down to 4 minutes. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to close this panel. But I'd like to thank Krista, Melanie, Bill, Myron, and Steve for being here. And of course, we wish it could be longer and that we didn't drop in it, but never mind. Thank you, everybody, and I hope you enjoy the rest of OSCC 15.
Thank you, Mal.
Thank you.
Hello everyone and welcome to the 1 p.m. session of the 2015 Open Simulator Community Conference. As a reminder to our in-world and web audience, you can view the full conference schedule at conference.opensimulator.org and tweet your questions or comments to @OpenSimCC with the hashtag OSCC15. This hour, we're happy to introduce the terrific session called OSCC15, the State of the Metaverse. Our speaker today is Maria Korolov. Maria Korolov is the editor and publisher of Hypergrid Business, of the Hypersia directory, of the Hypergrid destination. She has been a war correspondent, ran a news bureau in Shanghai, and covered business and technology for National Magazine for over 15 years. But the emerging metaverse is the most exciting thing she has ever covered. Welcome all, let's begin the session.
Hello everybody, I hope you guys can hear me okay. I don't see my lips moving, but I hope you can forgive me for that. So my name is Maria Korolov. I am, as mentioned, the editor and publisher of Hypergrid Business and of the Hyperica directory and the in-world Hypergrid destination hub that is Hyperica as well, which has been under construction for the past 5 years. I know, I'm sorry, I'm working on it. My email address is right up here. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email me. If you have any news, ideas, suggestions, anything else, of course, email me as well. And you don't have to take notes on the slides because the last slide will have a link to this presentation online. And all the underlying data for this is all available. So if you see any statistics you would like, email me and I can get them to you. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the growth of OpenSim. I have been tracking OpenSim for the past 6 years, since I first heard about it at an IBM conference in Second Life. I'm so excited about this because I guess the same reason most of you guys are here, because it's an opportunity for anyone to build a virtual world right there around themselves, and it's just the coolest thing ever. So in particular, what I'm excited about is the growth of the hypergrid. The blue area here on this chart is the growth in the hypergrid users. There's more than 33,000 unique users right now using OpenSim's public grids, more or less. There's various issues with statistics. This is the best numbers we have right now. 2 out of 3 of these users are on the hypergrid. Of the rest, the biggest chunk is on InWorlds, which has been doing a great job bringing people to OpenSim for the first time. And the rest of this chart, the little red band in the middle, that's the other closed commercial grids. So as the number of commercial grids is expanding, the number of users on these grids is not growing much at all, whereas the hypergrid growth is really going strong because, in effect, the hypergrid is one giant interconnected grid. We can all make friends, we can all teleport, we can attend events, we can even go shopping sometimes on other grids. It is really, really exciting. The hypergrid is, for me, what the metaverse is about, although I agree that there's value to closed grids as well. When you look at the number of regions on the hypergrid, this is dramatically bigger than on the closed commercial grids, mostly because on the hypergrid, a lot of these regions are self-hosted for free or hosted at really, really ridiculously low prices, sometimes as low as $3 a region for a full-sized region, because a lot of these are nonprofits or group grids. These are grids where people spend all their time working for free because of the love of the grid. And this really helps dramatically expand the variety of things available on a hypergrid. It reminds me a lot of the World Wide Web, where there's high-end websites that are very fancy, but also a lot of individual blogs and individual sites that maybe don't look as fancy, but still provide value and interest and context and variety to the metaverse as a whole. The land area of the public OpenSim grids has just passed 71,000, which is a little bit less than the Grand Canyon area of Grand Canyon. By comparison, Second Life has not been doing as well with land area. It has fallen below 25,000 for the first time in a long time. By public OpenSim grids, I mean grids where they have a website and anyone can sign up for an account, or anyone can teleport in, or both. So this is grids that are out there trying to promote themselves to the general public, not grids that are just internally for a school or for a company or for a government agency or for a nonprofit. This is the latest numbers I have. I talked to hosting companies this week to get an estimate of what percentage of the grids they're hosting are in private mode. And right now it's looking like 4/5 of all grids are running in private mode. So we're looking at around 350,000 regions total in OpenSim. My best current estimates, and this dark metaverse that I'm calling is actually growing faster than the public grids that we see. So this is all the school classes, and some of the educational deployments are just huge. You have like an entire country rolling this out for school after school after school. It's really amazing. So this to me is also very exciting. Obviously, they're not part of the hypergrid, but they do help contribute to OpenSim development, to the familiarity of people with OpenSim worlds. Moses, for example, has been not only contributing to OpenSim, but also creating distributions of OpenSim that they're sharing with other government agencies and other nonprofits and other groups, and creating content that they're sharing. Educators, of course, are also creating content that they're sharing. So this helps build the OpenSim ecology as a whole. So that for me is very exciting, that the OpenSim ecology is so big and so diverse. And this ecology is what's going to help OpenSim make the jump to virtual reality. And we are at, I believe, at a critical point right now for virtual reality. And OpenSim is further ahead than any other platform out there. I mean, we hear about Samsar, we hear about High Fidelity, but we're actually here already. We have Oculus Rift support. We are open source. We have a large ecosystem. We do allow user-created content right in world. Many of the new platforms that I'm seeing coming along are proprietary, do not allow user-created content, and they have other long-term issues with them. Doesn't mean they're not going to do well in the short term. If you recall back to the early days of the World Wide Web, we had CompuServe, we had AOL, we had a whole bunch of closed gardens popping up that could make a lot of money in the short term, and in the long term, of course, we know that the web, the open source ecosystem, won out of kind of a slow but steady approach, and I think that there's a strong chance of OpenSim doing the same thing. where we're growing slowly, we're growing steadily, we're growing organically, and we have some underlying factors that are very much in our favor. For example, when I do a survey of our user base, it's very diverse. We have nonprofits and developers, individual users, educators. All these people are creating stuff because this is a platform for creation. They're sharing. At the very least, we are creating events and interactions by showing up, by supporting a designer, a museum, a band. We are creating a social community. So this is very much a dynamic system for users, and it's also a unique and dynamic system of developers. We have big companies like Intel and IBM, academics like Crystal Lopez, who was just here, government agencies like the Moses Group, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of hobbyists. I write a lot about open source projects. This is a very unique, very diverse ecosystem. And as you can imagine, trying to get this entire ecosystem moving in one direction can be difficult and can be very frustrating for individual people. But over the long term, as a whole, it creates a very, very robust, diverse platform. And I think, again, that is an amazing thing about OpenSim. We complain about it, but I believe in the long term, it is actually really, really good for the platform and is one of the unique things, again, about what makes OpenSim special. And we also have a variety of vendors. Almost every other platform out there is this single vendor infrastructure. We have a lot of different vendors working in different countries, offering different kinds of services at different levels, at all different price points, with different kinds of support. Again, this makes OpenSim right now very, very much a unique platform. And I applaud these guys for taking a risk and trying to build a business in something that is so new and so cutting edge. So I don't know if you guys have noticed over the past couple of years, but virtual reality has just begun exploding. So last year, Facebook bought Oculus Rift for $2 billion. And 3 months later, Google released a little Google Cardboard kit that I think a lot of people at the time thought was a slightly delayed April Fool's joke, because it's a piece of cardboard. You can make this out of a pizza box. How ridiculous can you get? So we've had a couple of versions of this over this past years. Google released a little updated one this summer. And there were 6,000 of these a year and a half ago, 500,000 by the end of last year in circulation. Today, there are over 16 million Google Cardboard compatible headsets being used, produced by over 100 different manufacturers, and the numbers are from before the Black Friday sales. But they do include the New York Times 1 million headset giveaway. We've got some nice brand name ones. I have a copy of this Mattel Viewmaster. It is really, really nice. It's got a little AR gimmicky thing in it that you can ignore and use it for all the Google Cardboard apps and virtual reality videos. The Gear VR has hit the market. It's totally sold out. I've had mine on back order for a month now. That's how sold out it is. It's $99. It only works with the latest Samsung phones. So if you have another kind of phone, I recommend another headset. But there's a lot of headsets to choose from. Merge VR is one of them. I recommend the Ling VR. The Fibram here is big in Russia. There's just so many different headsets and all different shapes and sizes. The quality is not as good as with the consoles. I have recently had a demo of the HTC Vive, and it was mind-blowing. It did feel like the Star Trek holodeck. It did feel realistic, like actually realistic, like you were actually in that other environment. It was jaw-dropping. What I'm hearing is that the consumer version of Game Face and Oculus Rift, both of which are coming out next year, are going to be similar in specs. So that's something to really look ahead to. But the other thing to keep in mind is that we replace our cell phones every 1 or 2 years. We replace our PCs or consoles every 5 years or so. So expect the cell phone-based headsets to evolve really, really quickly. Plus, they are priced so low. The cardboards, you can get them for $1 each. The Viewmaster is $25 right now. These are really reasonable prices, and the quality is good enough for generic experiences, for the quick apps, for the videos, and in the generic social platforms are always a little bit behind the technology curves compared to the high-end gaming platforms. And that's one thing I think we should remember here at OpenSim, is that we are a general purpose social platform. We don't have to compete with the latest, greatest video games because we are a platform that allows anybody to build anything and put it up there. The fact that our resolution is a little lower maybe is actually something that'll work in our favor. If you look at the World Wide Web, the graphics there when it was starting out lagged behind the games you can get on CD, or the proprietary dial-up services, and that's okay. And that's okay. Again, we might move slower than the proprietary platforms, but I believe that we get further in the long run, and that a Google Cardboard type platform for us is not necessarily a bad fit, especially since we already have the beginnings of the Oculus Rift support. And as I mentioned, the price is significantly lower, hundreds of dollars versus ones or tens of dollars. So this is something that I really believe that OpenSim needs. Google Cardboard can already run WebGL type animations. There's a virtual world platform called Balula that's WebGL HTML5 based, that's planning to have Google Cardboard support. Cloud Party was a WebGL HTML5 browser-based world that had in-world building, that had various other nice features that they were acquired by Yahoo and disassembled for their pieces. But I think that those two platforms show that it's possible to do this, and we can wait for the better graphics and take advantage of the lower graphics to compensate for some of the lag issues. So that's my spiel for this. I think that we are definitely on an inflection point for virtual reality right now. You guys remember the hockey stick curve I just showed you, and we may have a period over the next couple of years where we will see a lot of investment going into proprietary platforms that have short-term payoffs, because investing in a long-term open source platform like ours has less of an immediate payoff potential. but I believe that in the long term, OpenSim or something very much like it is the best is the best option for a truly decentralized peer-to-peer virtual metaverse. And I do believe that we're going to get there. And this is something that I think will be an amazing and a transformative thing for human civilization. And that's why I'm here covering this and why I think this is so amazing. Again, my contact information is right here. That's my personal email address, and my work email address is maria@hypergridbusiness.com. Absolutely feel free to email me. And the slides are right here, bit.ly/OSCC15 -hypergrid. And also we have, I have almost 50 different headsets and where to buy them at bit.ly/VR-headsets. And now hopefully we might have a minute for questions before we start the next. Oh, you want me to put the links into chat? I can do that. Headsets. bit.ly/OSCC15 Hypergrid, and then Maria at hypergridbusiness.com. All right. So a lot of stuff coming up for the holiday season. So keep an eye out for on Hyperica. We're going to be posting a whole bunch of events.
Thank you, Maria. That was for a terrific presentation. As a reminder to our audience, you can see what's coming up on the conference schedule at conference.opensimulator.org. Following this session at 1:30 p.m, will be Predator and Prey, exploring the OpenSim with middle school students. We encourage you to visit the OSCC 15 Poster Expo in the OSCC Expo 3 region to find accompanying information on presentations and exploring the Hypergrid tours resources in OSCC Expo 2, along with sponsor crowdfunder booths located throughout all of the OSCC Expo regions. Thank you all again to our speaker, Maria.
Well, thank you everyone for your kind words. I really appreciate this. I think this is just the greatest thing I've had the opportunity to write about. And I love being here, and I love this platform, and I love this community. So thank you, all you guys.